Well, Israel's military has apologized after one of its tanks mistakenly hit an Egyptian border post near Gaza. It says it's investigating what happened. Egyptian authorities say 9 people have suffered minor injuries. Well, the Israeli army also says it's hit at least 320 targets in Gaza over the past 24 hours. They include a tunnel housing Hamas fighters and dozens of command and lookout posts. It also struck what it said were mortar and missile launcher positions. Well, let's bring in Andreas Krieg. He is a senior lecturer in security studies at King's College London. He joins me now live from there. Andreas, we know there have been ground skirmishes inside Gaza over the last day or so between Hamas and Israeli soldiers. One soldier we know was killed. IDF soldiers have been into Gaza before. Do they know what to expect now?
Yeah, it's difficult to say what they can expect because nothing has ever been done on that scale. This is an unprecedented war in terms of the extensity, and the urban environment that they're operating in couldn't be any more difficult. I mean, loads of people trying to make, using for metaphors and trying to compare this to anything that we've done in modern war, that we've seen in modern warfare in terms of urban combat. And I suppose it's worse than anything that we've seen pretty much since the Second World War. And I'm saying that because not only are you operating in a confined urban space, but you're operating in a space where there is an overground and there is an underground, with some of the tunnels being concrete reinforced, 70 meters deep, difficult to penetrate, and where Israel can't really use its full agility of its military as well as its numerical superiority against Hamas fighters. There will be ambushes, there will be traps. So it is an extremely difficult situation. And even if you had a whole out, combined arms sort of approach towards Gaza, I don't see how Israeli soldiers can really advance in achieving any of their objectives there.
Well, given that we've been hearing about this potential ground offensive for some time now, and it appears to have been delayed somewhat, how prepared are both sides for it to take place?
Well, there's an operational preparedness, but the question is, to what extent are you mentally prepared to actually take and sustain the pressures, to sustain the risk to actually do it? I think for the time being, the United States, for example, is trying to kind of buy some time for diplomacy. Obviously, Qatar being involved in mediation and saying that they're quite confident that they can get hostages released, which is kind of the number one reason why Europeans and also the Americans put some pressure on Israel to delay, see what Hamas can do, whether there can be any negotiations. But obviously, Israel can't hold off forever if it actually wants to achieve its objective of eradicating Hamas, which I think militarily is actually impossible if you don't have a political solution of what's going to come afterwards.
Andreas, I want to ask you about a bit more of the strategy we've been seeing here, because Israel has obviously stepped up its bombing campaign. Why the intensity of this bombardment, especially in the south, where people have obviously been told to flee? Now, if Israel wanted to avoid civilian casualties and evacuate the north, as it says, why not then stop bombing in the south and encourage people to actually go there?
Well, Israel is making the case. Israel is very unprepared for this. It's unprepared militarily. It's definitely unprepared strategically. It's kind of operating the IDF is put in this impossible place of where it has to operate in a place that has no political strategy, where the military has to now achieve ends that it cannot achieve through warfare, but that need to be achieved politically through diplomacy and negotiation. And in this void of strategy, the IDF is trying to kind of pursue all kinds of targets, understanding that from the air and remotely, you can't really destroy Hamas all the targets because they're underground. At the same time, there is an indecisiveness among the political leadership and also leadership of the IDF whether a ground offensive is really something that they want to do, because it would shift the burden extensively, not only to the civilian population of Gaza, but also on to young Israelis who might die in vain because there is no political endgame that they can achieve strategically. So it's a very desperate approach that we're seeing at the moment, and obviously one that Hamas has prepared for. Hamas, for the last 17 years, dug the tunnels, refortified the defenses, and make themselves almost impenetrable from the air.
Andreas Krieg there, a senior lecturer in security studies at King's College London. Always great to get your thoughts, Andreas. Thank you for joining us again on Al Jazeera.